The alchemists of the Iron Sultanate create creatures called taquin, using their helpers the homunculus. But how do they actually make them? What exactly is involved? That's what we answer today. Let's begin. Jabarian taquin servants. From the diminutive homunculi to the mighty brazen bulls are the crowning achievements of the alchemists of the Jabarian House of Wisdom. Within the Sultanate, they serve the great and the powerful in various roles, from alchemical assistant to manual labour, that can operate in the extreme of heat or cold, or in polluted and noxious spaces, all the way to the living war machines that accompany the warriors of the Sultan on the battlefield. As the alchemists' abilities grow, they work on shaping their taquin creations into new and more potent forms, for unlike naturally born creatures, the alchemists can mould their flesh and organs as a potter moulds fresh clay. Each homunculus is a handcrafted masterpiece of its creation, and reflects the personality and artistic flair even of its creator. They will also be directly representative of the power of their creator. They are often richly decorated with amulets, jewellery, or precious metals, or painted with a henna dye that never fades. Much of what the world considers to be modern alchemical practices of the Iron Sultanate are built on the foundations of brilliant minds like Jabir ibn Hayyan, who developed the guiding principles and institutional methods that have allowed Jabarian taquin servants to push the science of alchemy forward in ways that could never have been predicted, primarily with the discovery of homunculi creation itself. The process of this creation is long and complex, and the secrets of it guarded closely by the House of Wisdom, and only ever known to those skilled and learned enough to attempt the act of creation as part of their test to become an alchemist. Failure often means death, and punishment for revealing the secrets of the House of Wisdom is worse. So the method of homunculi creation is largely a secret that keeps itself. To begin the process, the budding alchemist must start with the fluids of life. This means blood from the heart, bile from the belly, the fluid that emerges from between the backbone and the ribs, saliva from the mouth, and fluid from the spine. Experiments have been done that have included the aqueous and vitreous humour of the eyes, blood from the kidney, liver and spleen, as well as juices from the deep intestines, but these were not found to have a positive impact on the resultant homunculus. The bodily fluids are individually placed in blessed wax containers, mixed with a multitude of powders derived from flora, fauna and minerals, and then sealed. Each one is prayed over for 7 days and 7 nights, before being placed in a strange mould in the form of a human. The metal used to craft this mould is the same as that which makes up the iron wall, and the form itself is vague, sexless, and without facial features. This form is then placed in a giant furnace, but no fuel, bellows, or any other equipment is brought forth. Instead, the alchemist must balance the forces of all creation to generate the heat, wind, and pressure needed, all while delicately feeding life forces and the elements that constitute physical existence into the form itself. While doing so, the alchemist will imbibe carefully balanced and prepared potions and drugs that they have worked on previously. It is vital for the alchemists to be able to open their minds fully wide to the absolute truth of existence while undergoing this act of creation. This part of the process claims more young student alchemists' lives than any other, and is seen as the main hurdle in their attempt to finish their path to mastering alchemy. The strain placed on their minds and bodies is immense. The sheer volatility of the process has been known to cause the suits of armour that assist them in controlling the forces of creation to crack and crumble. At this point, the half-formed homunculus will crawl from the mould, tearing the alchemist apart and climbing inside their body in a sick simulacra of the process of life. Experienced alchemists cannot intervene to save the life of the student. Only with their death will the howling forces within the chamber subside, allowing the veterans to enter and destroy the corrupted and failed homunculus once and for all. Those who manage to balance all the powerful forces at play and safely produce their homunculus will find themselves with the ultimate servant and a highly sought after resource within the Iron Sultanate. As the sultanate itself is a closed nation, where only carefully selected traders, merchants and scholars are allowed to visit, mercenaries and allies are a rare sight in the army of the sultan. Instead, the taquin creations of the alchemists allow the soldiers of the prophet to create specialist artificial warriors to fill in the gaps in their arsenal. The fate of these soldiers is often miserable. The intelligence that they require to operate on the battlefield also makes them aware of their horrific existence outside of the natural order. Forced by the power of the Seal of Solomon to fight and fall in battle in thousands of agonizing ways, only to be raised again and shaped into ever more unnatural forms to suit the needs of their masters. Homunculi are almost impossible to kill, with only the alchemists themselves truly knowing which thread of existence to pull to cause their creation to unravel. Devoid of organs, they can take tremendous damage before they fall and can then be raised up again by the alchemist when given enough time to perform their resurrective rites. Over the course of the centuries of the Trench Crusade, the House of Wisdom has experimented with all manner of forms for their creations, stretching them far beyond the semblance of humanity that they originally possessed when emerging from the creative process. Some have had their arms heavily twisted and contorted, drawn out into wings, the muscles of their chests and backs sickeningly increased to generate the power necessary for them to fly. Others will be given alchemical formulas that cause them to become larger or stronger, better able to fight the large creatures and machines of war at hell's disposal. Some have been given more arms and multiple heads, turned into walking weapons platforms, capable of carrying and firing multiple weapons at the same time. There are tales of one alchemist finding a way to make his homunculus possess hypnotic eyes, and then the heretic that met its gaze became enraptured, barely able to bring themselves to harm it or fight back from its murderous intentions. No matter their form, and be they used on the battlefield or deep within the sprawling labs of the House of Wisdom, the fate of homunculi is truly one to be pitied. Little more than tools and playthings for their masters, they will have their bones stretched or shortened, their musculature torn and restitched, and every aspect of their being changed and altered upon the whims of another. While no true life that was born of the union of a mother and a father, they still possess enough intelligence to carry out the task assigned to them by others, and are more than aware of their own suffering. Due to the disturbing nature of their origins, they are simply stripped of the will to change it, and they will live and die 1,000 times until eventually their master succumbs to their own final death, freeing them at last. Now, the organs part of the lore there reminds me of how organs of mummies would be preserved in canoptic jars in ancient Egypt. The House of Wisdom is a real-world reference to the Grand Library of Baghdad, and Jabir ibn Hayyan, that's how I'm going to pronounce it, was a real-world author of treatises on philosophy, chemistry, alchemy and magic, which makes it a nice Trench Crusade real-world reference, and I believe the taquin name is also tied into that. I'm going to try and source some sort of book by this guy from the past and see if I can maybe read bits of it and see if that might apply to the lore. That could be interesting, but we'll see if I can find it first. He also wrote a classification of chemical substances, which is randomly at the end of my script here. Anyway, enough rambling here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Comment down below if you enjoyed it. And just to say, the origin of this lore is because it's passed on to another YouTuber by the guys who created the Trench Crusade. It was just dropped on Reddit and transcribed, which is why I brought it over here for you to listen to. So just the explanation there, in case you were wondering why it sounds similar to somebody else's script. And on that note, I'll wrap up today's video. Drop me a comment, and if you like this video on the Trench Crusade, there are many more. Try one of them. Try this one.